Hello and welcome to Inside Science. Let's start our first issue, that is Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Bill 2019. Why it was in news? Because the Parliament has made into law the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Bill 2019, which had been framed for the welfare of transgender persons. The bill was passed in the Lok Sabha on August 5 this year, a month after its introduction in the House, and the Rajya Sabha cleared it on November 26, with a last minute move to refer to it into a select committee being defeated in a voice vote. The community had organized protests across the country urging changes to the bill, claiming that in the form in which the central government had conceived it, it showed a poor understanding of gender and sexual identity. So, actually, why this bill came into existence? Because the Supreme Court of India, in the National Legal Services Authority, that is NALSA versus Union of India case, mentioned that the central and state governments to ensure legal recognition of all transgender persons and proactive measures instituted for their welfare. So, what is the definition of a transgender person? The bill defines a transgender person as one whose gender does not match the gender assigned at birth. It includes trans men, trans women, persons with intersex variations, gender queers, and persons with socio-cultural identities such as Kinnar and Hijra. What is the certificate of the identity? A transgender person may make an application to the district magistrate for a certificate of identity indicating the gender as transgender. Mean the district magistrate has the sole right to give a recognition a person as a transgender if he or she wishes to be. So, prohibition against discrimination. It was the bill prohibits discrimination against a transgender person, including denial of service or unfair treatment in relation to education, employment, healthcare, access to or enjoyment of goods, facilities, opportunities available to the public, right to movement, right to reside, rent, or otherwise occupy property, opportunity to hold public or private office, access to a government or private establishment in whose care or custody a transgender person is. Guys, why I am covering in details? Because in prelims, mains, especially general studies and essay, it can come upon, and also in ethics they can ask these questions. In interview also they can ask this. So it is a very important news. So I thought of covering it holistically so that you have a great idea on this. So healthcare. The bill also seeks to provide rights of health facilities to transgender persons, including separate HIV surveillance centers and sex reassignment surgeries. So it also states that the government shall review medical curriculum to address health issues of transgender persons and provide comprehensive medical insurance schemes for them. It calls for establishing a National Council for Transgender Persons, that is NCT. It is very important to remember it. What is the punishment? It states that the offences against transgender persons will attract imprisonment between 6 months and 2 years. This is the keyword important, 6 months and 2 years in addition to a fine. It doesn't make provision for affirmative action in employment or education despite the Supreme Court's mandate in National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India case 2014. So the next issue is Cartosat-3. So it was in news because ISRO has launched Cartosat-3 and 13 commercial nanosatellites into a sun synchronous orbit from Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. Cartosat-3 is an Earth observation remote sensing satellite which will replace Indian remote sensing series. So far, ISRO has orbited 8 Cartosats since 2005. What is remote sensing? It is the science of obtaining information about objects or areas from a distance, typically from aircraft or satellites. That is remote sensing. So let's discuss something in details about this Cartosat. The 13 commercial nanosatellites. Guys, before going this, we have to know that ISRO has 2 commercial wings. One is Antrix and another is New Space India Limited. So the commercial 13 commercial nano satellites are from the USA, which is the first commercial order for New Space India Limited, the commercial arm of ISRO, which was formed in March 2019. But the Antrix was the oldest commercial wing of ISRO. Cartosat-3 is a third generation advanced Earth observation satellites carried by Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, that is PSLV C-47. Guys, in comment box mention the difference between PSLV and GSLV. This Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle is an indigenously developed expendable launch system of the ISRO. Resolution: it has the sharpest eye of civil remote sensing satellites in the world. One of the Cartosat-3's cameras offers a ground resolution of 25 cm and it can pick up an object of a minimum 25 cm size from a height of around 5. Currently, a satellite owned by US private company, that is Worldview 3, has the best ground resolution of 31 cm. What is the weight? 1625 kg. Cartosat-3 is unusually heavy and more than double the mass of the previous 8 in the class. So orbit, this PSLV will place Cartosat-3 in an orbit of 509 km. Inclination, it has been placed at 7.5 degrees to the equator of the Earth. It has many new technologies such as highly agile or flexible camera, high-speed data transmission, advanced computer system, etc. What are those applications? One is armed forces. However, an existing policy allows only government and government authorized agencies to access ISRO's high resolution imageries below a resolution of 1 meter. Cartosat-3's optical imaging will also help to detect precise cartographic or mapping activities. The imageries are also used for urban and rural infrastructure planning, coastal land use and regulation, utility management such as monitoring road networks, water grids or distribution, creation of land use maps, disaster management, etc. So let's discuss something about Cartosat satellites. The Cartosat satellites are Earth observation satellites used mainly for large-scale mapping of the Earth through high-resolution cameras. It also helps to detect changes in natural, geographical or man-made features, as their cameras can look back and forth in an angle to generate continuous spot images. The Earth observation satellites also include the ResourceSat and the ReSat series, the OceanSat series. Let's discuss about the ResourceSat and the ReSat series of satellites. For example, they provide images and data that are needed for land and water resources applications. The OceanSat series and the Saral satellite meanwhile produce data on the oceans. The satellites like INSAT 3D, INSAT VRR or Megatropics study the atmosphere. So these specific satellites are very important. Please remember it. So the next issue is, before going to the next issue, this image is given and please have a look on this in details. These things are given, so have a look on this. So the next issue is Emission Gap Report by UNEP, that is United Nations Environment Program. And guys, in comment box mention where is the headquarter of UNEP and UNDP. Recently, the United Nations Environment Program released Emissions Gap Report, according to which Earth is the fourth largest emitter of greenhouse gases. The world will fail to meet 1.5% centigrade temperature goal of the Paris Agreement unless global greenhouse gas emissions fall by 7.6% each year. The top 4 emitters, one is China, USA, European Union and India, contributed to over 55% of the total emissions over the last decade, excluding emissions from land use change such as deforestation. Sectors that are the largest emitters: first is energy, second industry, then forestry, transport, agriculture and building. So in descending order it is there, please remember it. India is among a small group of countries that are on their way to achieve their self-declared climate targets under the Paris Agreement. However, The emissions largely depend on the growth of the economy of the country. So one question in prelims mains in 1995 was asked, what policy has the government of India adopted in recent years to protect our environment, control pollution and maintain ecological balance? State briefly. Though the question is very old, so it has a significance. Same kind of question can be asked in mains. Then the next issue is INDC, that is Intended Nationally Determined Contributions. In the Paris Agreement, India committed to achieve the following three targets of INDC. India's greenhouse gas emissions intensity of its GDP will be reduced by 33 to 35% below 2005 levels by 2030, and this place has been taken in this INDC. A total of 40% of the installed capacity for electricity will be from non-fossil fuel sources. India also promised an additional carbon sink, a means to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent through additional forest and tree cover by the year 2030. So the next issue is exercise Mitra Shakti. The 7th edition of India-Sri Lanka Joint Military Training Exercise Mitra Shakti 2019 is scheduled to be conducted in Pune from 1st to 14 December 2019. Guys, in comment box, who is the newly appointed president of Sri Lanka and how many rupees has been pledged by Modi ji to invest in Sri Lanka? That is line of credit. It is $400 million or $450 million, because $50 million has already been placed for security reason to tackle terrorism. So how many dollars have been invested to tackle to give line of credit? Please mention in the line of credit is a different concept. Please mention in comment box what is line of credit and how many rupees has been invested. The exercise aims to build and promote positive relations between armies of India and Sri Lanka for counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism operations in urban and rural environments under United Nations mandate. The joint exercise also aims for incorporating the current dynamics of United Nations peacekeeping operations through practical and comprehensive discussions and tactical exercise. Guys, also in comment box mention which ports are being created by India and China in Sri Lanka. The next issue is a new snake species found in Arunachal Pradesh. Because in prelims they are asking the special species, because in previous year prelims they have asked about a banana, a special kind of banana which is found in a different state or union territory. We will discuss in the upcoming slide, and in that ratio if you see, so this kind of species are very important. If it is plant also, if it is animal also, they are important. Recently, a new species of non-venomous burrowing snake named Trachysteum apatei has been found in the forested area of the Tali Valley Wildlife Sanctuary near the town of Jiro in Arunachal Pradesh. It belongs to a group of fossorial snakes that live mostly underground and surface mainly during or after a heavy monsoon shower. So let's discuss the prelim questions which were asked in prelim 2016 to give a glimpse which kind of question UPSC is asking in prelims. Recently, our scientists have discovered a new and a distinct species of banana plant which attains a height of about 11 meters and has orange colored fruit pulp. In which part of India has it been discovered? Options are Andaman Islands, Anaimalai Forest, Maikalla Hills, Tropical Rainforest of Northeast. The right answer is Andaman Islands. The next question which I asked in prelims 2016 was like this. The term intended nationally determined contribution is sometimes seen in the news in the context of. Options are pledge made by the European countries to rehabilitated refugees from the war-affected Middle East. Second option is plan of action outlined by the countries of the world to combat climate changes. Option C is capital contributed by the member countries in the establishment of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Option D is plan of action outlined by the countries of the world regarding sustainable development goals. The right option is option B. So thank you guys, have a nice day.